denying this permit, it'll serve as a symbol to the medical industry and other excessive waste-producing industries that it's time that waste be reduced and not just taken care of and cleaned up and burnt. I'd also like to ask about parliamentary procedure here. I noticed that you allowed the, I guess, primary representative from MedX to be placed last. I don't know how fair that is. This is my first public hearing like this, but I just don't understand how that's allowed. I don't know if it's a courtesy or because they're the least represented here. I'm not sure, but
it was a request on the part of the speaker.
Okay, and
as was one other. We have two people now have been asked to be moved to last.
I don't know how you're going to do two people last, but that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Mr. Johnson had asked to be placed last, and now three other speakers have come forward. Mr. Johnson.
I'll go now. This is fine. Okay. First of all, one reason why I asked to go last is that MedX has, for 3 years, been putting forth an application and a presentation, and we've given several. We've been at several public hearings, and we've given an open public hearing one time back in August of 1990, where we invited people to come and hear what we had to say about this incinerator and how it was going to work. And at that particular public hearing that we gave, we brought our engineers that described the entire process. At this hearing, I wanted to hear what other people had to say before I went, just to see if there's something new that hasn't been addressed in our permit application. And I fully intend on submitting comments from MedX to address all the comments that were developed here, and I'll submit those to DEQ. A couple points, though, that are, I feel, grossly out of proportion at this that have been brought up today. First of all, one that we're a Florida corporation and that we're only here because there's a moratorium in Florida. The truth is that MedX purchased a corporation in Reserve that's across the street from the facility where we're intending on building this new facility. And as soon as we purchased that back in 1988, we began working on upgrading and building an upgraded facility in the same location. That was well before, 1988 was well before Florida ever began to consider a moratorium. At this point in time, Florida has instituted a moratorium. However, it has granted MedX 2 additional construction permits to build a new facility in Miami that's now in progress. Those permits were given, again, in a situation where we had an older plant and we were building an upgraded facility. Florida does have very progressive laws in medical waste management, and they deemed that our permit application was fine, and they're looking forward to having state-of-the-art technology in the state of Florida. The other thing I've noticed that I want to comment on that has been grossly brought out of proportion is the definition of international garbage. International garbage is defined by United States Department of Agriculture. And what it is fruits, vegetables, and meats from overseas that are discarded during flights or cruises from overseas locations. And what that means is that while a plane or while a ship may come from an overseas location to a port in Louisiana, the onboard fruits and vegetables that are eaten by ship hands that are discarded as galley waste need to be taken care of as an infectious waste. They need to be incinerated. And this amounts to the garbage that's developed by the crew in transit from the port overseas. It does not mean a shipload of medical waste coming from overseas. International garbage is a minuscule amount of garbage that will be incinerated by our facility, and it offers a service so that USDA can ensure that no pathogens from overseas are mistakenly brought to Louisiana, thereby infecting the citrus or other crops in the state of Louisiana. That's all the comments I have. And as I said before, we'll be submitting additional comments to DEQ once this is over. Thank you.
Ms. Ramona Stevens, representing Lean.
I'm Ramona Stevens, and I'm here representing Louisiana Environmental Action Network at the request of our member group, St. John Citizens for Environmental Justice. Lean has been involved in a couple of issues down here in St. John the Baptist Parish. One of them was the HMI incinerator. That is a medical waste incinerator facility. According to the permit application submitted by MedX, and they state, presently there are not adequate infectious waste processing plants within the state of Louisiana. That's not true. We've got a site in North Louisiana with a medical waste incinerator, a commercial facility, and we've got the HMI reserve plant. That's the only two we need to handle Louisiana's waste. Most of the waste that will be handled here looks to be that it's going to be coming from outside the state of Louisiana. People have made comments here tonight that DuPont was burning out-of-state waste. Yes, that's true. 60% of the waste that DuPont burns at its Laplace works is from outside the state of Louisiana. We don't need that with medical waste. I have recently had 3 family members in the hospital in the past year for extended stays. A lot of garbage gets mixed with infectious waste. I have even caught hospitals throwing needles in the garbage can and not putting them in a needle repository. We can't have this. We've got to reduce the amount of waste that has to be incinerated because it's infectious. We need to reduce the amount of waste that has to be incinerated, period. We can get away from all of these disposables. I'd rather see them go back to autoclaving it. It is sterile. It's clean. My mother has worked at a state hospital for the past 25 years. She autoclaves everything. It can be done. Yes, it will ruin the plastics. They cannot be autoclaved, but everything else can. Statements have been made here tonight about jobs. Yes, we need jobs. Louisiana needs jobs. But we also need a healthy environment to live in. And we can have both. We don't have to give up our jobs to have a clean environment. That is another false lie. And about the cruise ships and international waste, it's not just cruise ships. It's any and all ocean-going vessels, whether they transport chemicals or people. All the waste has to be red bagged. I was out at Georgia Gulf one day taking a tour, and there was a vessel loading up a chemical. I noticed that they were bringing off garbage in red bags, and I asked why. At that time, I did not know. I understand why it has to be done, but I don't understand why Louisiana has to take it all. Not very often does DEQ deny a permit. And as far as I know, they have never denied a permit without good reasons. You've got those reasons. Let's keep the denial. We don't need a 3rd or 4th medical waste incinerator in reserve. We've got all the plants. A lot of the people that work in this area, that work in these plants, don't necessarily live in this area. I know from my neck of the woods, every afternoon and every morning, people are filing in and out, and they're not from Ascension Parish. The people that would have gotten the jobs at Formosa, there was no 700 or 800 jobs for the people of St. John the Baptist Parish. You would have been lucky to have gotten 60 of them. There was an incinerator facility trying to come into my home parish, which was St. Helena. St. Helena needs jobs desperately. They're a very poor parish. They wanted to bring in 4 commercial incinerators, and that was what they used. They said, we're going to bring jobs to St. Helena Parish. Some people thought that was good, until they found out that they wouldn't qualify to be a security guard at that incineration facility, much less anything else. I don't see the people living in this area that have to put up with the pollution as getting these jobs. The people that lived around the Formosa facility would have gone. The parish was going to train them at the parish's expense. Formosa should have done that training if they wanted to bring jobs to the community. That should be the responsibility of the company. If you want to be a good corporate citizen, you've got to treat your community in which you live in like you live in it. Don't go somewhere else and live. Live in the community in which you put the facility. But plant managers and owners of companies and plants don't live close to them, very rarely. Lean will be submitting formal written comments, and we'd like to stress once again, DEQ, do your job. Deny this permit.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Lonnie H. Taylor, followed by Kim Chasson.
We do sing the New Parish House.
My name is Lonnie Taylor, and I work for MedX as a truck driver. I've been working there for 4 years, and I sympathize with the people who have kids and are concerned because I have 2 kids of my own, 4 and 2, a girl and a boy. A lot of people is pointing a lot of fingers at a lot of other companies here. I believe something should be done about that. But as far as a new company coming in with a new facility that's going to do things with the new technologies that are out, I don't think you should stop that. No, you shouldn't stop new industry. I think that I've been working there 4 years and I don't make right above minimum wage like somebody had said. Last year I made $25 grand and I'm living on that. And MedX has treated me good. I have good benefits. Real good benefits. And I believe you should point your fingers more or less at other companies rather than just pointing at us. Yes, they're polluting. MedX hasn't polluted yet because we haven't built a facility. And I believe in the new technologies because if I wouldn't believe in it, then I'd just move out and quit. I believe in the new technologies that are coming out. Landfills are going to start filling up real soon. I don't believe we're going to have many places to put your garbage. You're going to bury it in your backyard. You're going to do whatever. But I think MedX is going to be a future company. They're steadily moving across the nation. A nationwide company. A good company. And I believe you should give them a chance. Thank you.
Kim Chasson, followed by Renee Madare. Kim Chasson? He was just here a minute ago. Renee Madare, followed by J.M. Ford.
Yes, I'm a business person in this parish, and I depend a lot on the industry that locates in this parish. But I'll tell you one thing, what I've witnessed from MedX and also our other people that have the incinerator here, this is not the type of business we need. We need good business to give people jobs, of course. But I witnessed MedX when they used to use the small incinerator, the very small incinerator like the grocery store incinerator that they used to burn things in. A lot of people didn't realize what they were burning. A lot of people thought that was something to burn boxes or something, and I thought it was, but that was not. They were burning medical waste. I pulled into their facility on several occasions and got out because I serviced a lot of companies around them. When I would pull in and see the black smoke coming out of their chimney, I'd walk up to the operators and ask them, "What are you doing?" The guy looked at me and says, "Who are you?" And I said, gave him my name. I said, "I live here. I have children here. I have children that go to school here, and I raise them here." And the guy says, "Well, we can smoke all we want." I said, "No, you can't." I said, "You cannot do it. And you can look at your records. DEQ can look at their records. I have called. I was one of the persons that called way back when, started making these phone calls and saying, hey, these people are polluting. We want something done about it." DEQ came out, inspected them, and yes, they did shut them down. They closed the incinerator facility down because they did not meet the criteria that was needed to operate this type facility. And I just cannot have the trust in you people to let you operate in my parish. Also, right now, you park trucks, large trucks, all over the highways, loaded with medical waste at night. You park these trucks in the cross street from 10th Street with no lights on them to let somebody just run into it? Look, if that's the type of business you're going to operate, gentlemen, take your business elsewhere. Thank you.
Mr. J.M. Ford, followed by Ms. Audrey Evans.
Thank you. Earlier, I addressed some of the problems with the incineration of medical waste, principally the heavy metal constituents. Ms. Dursatel was very correct when she stated earlier that medical waste is rendered harmless by incineration. The jury is still out on the question of the AIDS virus. The osteopathic surgeons are taking the opinion that the AIDS virus itself can withstand laser surgery, or orthopedic surgeons, I'm sorry. There are a number of publications on that. That's the only medical pathogen I'm aware of that would survive the temperatures of incineration. However, what she did not tell you is, yes, medical waste is rendered harmless, but it's the products of the incineration is more dangerous than what it went in the first place. Now, earlier we addressed the question about the heavy metals. Another one of the topics is fines, F-I-N-E-S, fine dust particles. The California Air Resources Board did a 5-year study on the emissions of medical waste incinerators. These are the ultimate state-of-the-art incinerators. Dry scrubbers, wet scrubbers, electrostatic precipitators, the whole shebang. They found that no matter what the treatment, the emission treatment is, 50% of the air emissions or greater are fines. Fines are 1/2 micron in diameter or smaller. The human body, through the natural process of selection, can reject dust particles of 2 microns and larger. Anything smaller than that is directly ingested into the lungs, into the trachea, into the alveolar cells. The fines are composed of, or can potentially be comprised of, dust particles that have condensed on them, the various forms of dioxins, furans, and so forth. They can also have condensed on them the various heavy metals we discussed earlier, mercury, lead, cadmium, chromium. This is direct ingestion into the bloodstream. There is no way to prevent it. Also, one of the gentlemen said, why are we coming from Mississippi to be protesting way over here in Reserve, Louisiana? There was a 7-year study done for the United States Forestry Service at the NSTL station, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, which was on acid rain. This was the effect of acid rain on the growth of pine trees. One of the very remarkable studies was that when the prevailing wind was out of the west, our rainfall got with a pH as low as 3.6, and every year the pH was lower. That's rainfall that's coming from here. You are dumping on us, and it is a concern to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Ms. Audrey Evans. Is Mr. Kim Chasson in the room yet? Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Audrey Evans. I am from 545 Oak Alley Drive in Laplace, and I'm also a member of the St. John Citizens for Environmental Justice. I hope that it's clear to you, DEQ, from the comments here tonight,
that the actions of the St. John the Baptist Parish Council do not in any way reflect the desires of the people on the medical waste incinerator issue here. Unfortunately, we live in a community with far too much pollution already, and our community has been sort of like the proverbial frog, slowly dying because the heat in the water, like the pollution, has been increased bit by bit. Now we're trying to jump out, but we're having a kind of hard time. We're not getting much help, if any, from our local council, so we need DEQ to sustain its denial of this permit. Jefferson Parish put a moratorium on medical waste storage and disposal facilities so that Jefferson Parish could study the problem. Jefferson Parish used the comprehensive study to pass a stringent zoning ordinance that prohibits locating medical waste facilities near schools and communities. MedEx could not locate in Jefferson Parish, so close to homes and schools like MedEx proposes to locate in St. John. St. John had a ban on medical waste facilities that was put there at the request of the local citizens group, but that ban was lifted for MedEx and also has been lifted for another company since then, making it virtually meaningless. Citizens asked our council for a moratorium like Jefferson's, but our requests fell on deaf ears. One of the reasons that the St. John Citizens for Environmental Justice has been asking for greater protection, specifically from medical waste industry expansion here, and why we've also asked DEQ, along with other groups, for stiffer air medical waste incinerator rules, but that wasn't granted either, is because of MedEx's compliance history here and in other places. For example, in the fall of 1988, MedEx Incorporated purchased an existing medical waste incinerator known as Specialty Waste Management in Reserve, Louisiana. The Specialty Waste Management facility began operating in 1986. The compliance history of the facility since MedEx purchased the facility has been less than ideal, as demonstrated in some newspaper articles that I'll give you. When you read the permit application, you get a completely different picture of the compliance history associated with MedEx. On page 1 through 10, when responding to the expected frequency of bad air conditions, MedEx responded that this is a proposed facility with no history of emissions available. MedEx, however, does have a history of, quote, bad air conditions at their existing facility. Why was that history omitted? On page 1 through 21, MedEx states that the proposed facility will replace the existing MedEx facility and that the proposed facility will be an improved facility. On page 1 through 31, MedEx responded to a request for prior experience and operating record by stating that, quote, MedEx Incorporated's waste handling expertise is evidenced by its environmental compliance record, exhibiting sound operational ability to conduct the proposed solid waste facility in a safe manner. This makes it appear that MedEx has a wonderful compliance record. I would like to request that DEQ make a part of the record of this hearing copies of the compliance history of MedEx Inc. from the various divisions of DEQ, including the Water Quality Division, the Air Quality Division, the Solid and Hazardous Waste Division, and the Nuclear Division. Before DEQ makes a decision on this permit application, the previous compliance history of this company in Louisiana must be examined, and that compliance history made a part of the official record. I would further request that when DEQ receives the Florida, Miami-Dade County record, that it seriously consider that also as part of the history of the company. Citizens here are also very concerned about MedEx's statement that they will do, quote, whatever it takes to get this DEQ permit. That's from the Times-Picayune of June 3rd, 1992. That is very intimidating to a lot of people in St. John. There's already a fair amount, if not a great amount, of intimidation, politically and otherwise, in this community. And it causes us to wonder what MedEx has actually done to convince our council and its legal advisors to go along with it. On behalf of the people here, we urge DEQ to deny the permit.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Evans. Mr. Kim Chasson? He filed another another card identifying himself as a speaker who wanted? Okay. Are there any other statements to be read into the public record? Yes, Ms. Snow. This is Ms. Susan K. Snow.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Miller, I'd like to tell you something about Laidlaw. In fact, I'd like to tell you something about MedX maybe the people don't know about. MedX is an Atwoods company. It's a subsidiary of Atwoods, one of the largest waste hauling firms in the world. Laidlaw has purchased about 35% or so of Atwoods. Laidlaw's violations, according to your own department, the facility is attempting to circumvent the hazardous waste regulations, recommend civil penalties be considered to offset economic gain through noncompliance. This is according to a DEQ memo. Other attempts to convince Laidlaw to comply have failed. Violations are a major potential for harm to the human health and the environment. Some of the violations cited by the Louisiana DEQ against Laidlaw are land disposal of its hazardous waste, which is prohibited, does not meet the 200-foot buffer zone requirement, failed to clean up hazardous waste spills in a timely manner, had 6 fires in hazardous waste solids shredder unit since November 1990, installed and operates hazardous waste in shredder without receiving a permit, stored hazardous waste in containers not marked with words, quote, hazardous waste, close quote, and data accumulation began. Failed to identify and follow correct test methods of hazardous waste. Stacked hazardous waste containers in a manner that may cause ruptures or cause leaks. Laidlaw continues to operate hazardous waste devices without permits. The San Diego report was done by the District Attorney Edwin L. Miller, San Diego County, California. It was done on the top of the #1 waste disposal firm in the United States, Waste Management. In the report, it mentions that the waste industry is often involved in organized crime. Is Laidlaw and MedX involved in organized crime? According to William Sanjern, and I may be mispronouncing his name, who's a 20-year EPA veteran and also a whistleblower with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, the Solid Waste Division first communicates with the Waste Division. It does not matter whether it's the Solid Waste Division in D.C., the Solid Waste Division in the regional EPA office, or the Solid Waste Division at DEQ. The waste industry helps write regulations. They play a big part in the way the regulations are written. The public hearing comes afterwards, after the private meetings between the solid waste industry and DEQ. The public has a minor role in establishing the regulations. Mr. Sanjern also said that the EPA office often takes the word of the waste industry. They don't necessarily do independent tests. Since the EPA has much more funding than DEQ, and since it costs at least $2,000 per sample to test for dioxin, how is DEQ going to do independent tests to make sure that Laidlaw, that is MedX, is telling the truth? Is DEQ going to test independently? Or are we going to take the word of the #3 waste company in the world that may have the same record as Waste Management and be involved in organized crime. Thank you.
Any further comments for the record? I would remind you. Could you please identify yourself clearly when you get to the microphone?
Yes, my name is Jamie Smith, and I'm 14 years old, and I go to Riverside Academy, which is right around the corner from MEDX. And I'm representing all the people my age because one of the things that we've learned in school is, in our civics class, is that we as young adults, we have a right to come and represent ourselves because we belong to this country too, and we're citizens. And I saw this man, he was holding up a sign that said that we should, to think of us. I believe is the man over there with the yellow shirt. And I just would like to tell you that I've listened to both sides of the story, and I know I probably don't know all about it like one of the people said, but I would just like to tell you that in your decision, I would like you to really consider our future, because after everybody's gone, we're the next generation, and we'll be the people that have to take over and do whatever you do. And I just like to say that, and thank you.
And I'm sure you'll do a very good job representing us too. Could we have your name again? I'm not so sure that it came over the tape. Jamie Smith. Thank you very much. Could you state your name into the microphone, please?
My name is Amber Lewis. And I'm 13 years old, and I'm an 8th grader. Also, I go to Riverside. And I live on West 19th Street, right down the street from HMI BFI Incinerator. And right here it says, MEDX is not a very good neighbor, as in this letter shows, but we already have a bad incinerator that's a neighbor of mine, and we don't need another one in our town. This letter states, we are now long past being concerned. We are being poisoned. Each night my lungs burn as though they are on fire. I am in total agony. I also don't sleep because my nervous system is irritated. I feel like a trapped, wounded animal in a cage, only the cage is my own home. Having two poison factories side by side, belching toxic, foul-smelling, vile air to the community as uncivilized and inhumane. Yet nobody will do anything except try to justify these monsters to us. Smoke was pouring out of the MEDX facility. It was like driving in downtown Los Angeles. The air was murky and foul-smelling. As present, it was environmentally unsafe, and we continued to be these casualties. And right here, I have a list of complaints. MEDX smoking, especially early in the morning and on weekends. Incinerator smoking, very bad for past 30 minutes. And another complaint, smoke from STAT. They sound just like our complaints as our neighbors of BFI's incinerator. Why, I repeat, why has our local council brought more on us?
Thank you very much. This concludes the people who have identified themselves as wishing to speak into the public record. The comments that were received this evening will be transcribed and will be taken into consideration in the department's deliberation in its final decision. I would like to thank all of the speakers and everybody here for your courtesy and your patience. If there are no further items of business, this concludes the hearing. Thank you.